Okay, so this is irrigation for Fall River. I've drawn a little map here of the layout that I envision at your site. You can see the water sources up top. Water comes away from the municipal source flowing towards the trees. Right here you're going to have your first valve box, which is basically a green box in the ground. It's where you're going to put your pressure regulator and water filter, so you regulate the pressure of the water and you filter the water before it hits your drip irrigation system. Followed closely after that box will be your main valve box, right here where the two branches separate. You got one branch that's going to do the first 7 rows. The second branch will do the last 7 rows. You don't have enough water to do all 14 rows at once, so we have to do 2 branches. To make that happen, there's another valve box there. 2 valves are in it. Each valve goes to each zone. I'll show you some of the tools here behind me. The torch. Bullnose pliers for securing the clamps. And there's also a pair of cutting tools which are included in your package. When you're working with irrigation, it's good to try to double clamp all your connections. So here's your 1-inch poly pipe, which is basically your supply pipe for the system. Put 2 clamps on it. Heat it up with a torch, not a lot, just a little bit. And then you take your insert fittings, whichever you may be using at that point. Could be elbows, could be T's, could be things to get you over to the valves themselves. Stick your insert fitting in all the way. Bring your 2 clamps up. So this insert's all the way in. 2 clamps are up, and then using your bullnose pliers, pinch that raised area there so it's tight, and do it on each clamp, one at a time, with the bull noses. Pinch it, squeeze it, bring it tight over the fitting, and you're all set. It's pretty easy. This fitting here is a T. It's got barbed ends which insert into the poly pipe, and then it's got a threaded piece here to which you would thread your adapter, which goes over to the drip line. Drip line's going to look like this. Just heat the end of the drip line up a little bit. Just give it a touch, especially if it's a warm day. It won't need a whole lot of heat. And then drive the insert fitting right in there, all the way to the faceplate here. You don't want to do it halfway, just go all the way, and you'll be all set. You don't need any clamps or anything to secure it, that's enough. So for each row of trees, you should see one of these. There may be some other type of adapter that goes with it, but this is roughly what you're looking at, a T by adapter that gets you over to your drip line. In the valve boxes, where the actual valves go, you're going to have a manifold. Probably look a lot like this. Water goes in one side and then out to the valves, and on the end, if it's open, you just put a cap on. Everything screws together with these. You simply take the valve and spin it on there. Sometimes you have to pull these out to get them to loosen. Spin that on, and then get your valves lined up the way you want. So you've got water coming in one side, going out to the valves. This branch would go this way, to my left, and this branch here would go to my right. With the valves themselves, since you don't have electric power out in the field, it's going to be a battery-operated unit, which goes right into the valve box with the valve itself. This solenoid that's on top of the valve keep that on while you're doing all your installation work. But when you're done and you want to start connecting the actual controllers for the valves, you're going to have to unscrew this and then screw in a different solenoid that's provided, which attaches to the control. It's a little round control. It says Hunter on it. It's battery powered by a 9-volt. You'll have two controls, and you're going to have to synchronize them so that they're not going off at the same time. And that's important because you don't have enough water to supply the system, supply each zone simultaneously. Going back upstream, the pressure regulator, which will be in the first valve box closest to the water source, it's going to look something like this. There may be one of these and there may be two of these. Sometimes it's a pressure regulator with a built-in filter, and sometimes it's a filter plus pressure regulator. There should be the fittings necessary to screw these together, and then there should be a female thread by male barb, which will go right into the black poly pipe, so that you can run black poly right into here and go out the other side. It's important to note the flow of water direction. There's an arrow on there. Pay attention to that, because if you get it reversed, you won't get any water through there. The same thing holds true with the valves. These should be more self-explanatory though, because one end is threaded and one's barbed. But needless to say, there's also an arrow there, and it's good to be aware of that if anything, any problems arise. That's the basics of setting up your system. You want to try to put everything underground if you can, because it keeps things out of harm's way, and if the temperatures get a little bit cold, it's some insulation against freezing. The final thing that I'd like to show you is the valve box, and it just looks like a big green and black box. Sometimes they're all green. So that's it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call, and happy to help in any way I can. Thank you.